set?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
May it please the court, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, counsel. Famous football coach, probably known to those who aren't even sports fans, Vince Lombardi once said, "Winning isn't everything, winning is the only thing." And sure enough, winning cures a lot of ills. Winning makes things look a lot better, but winning isn't everything. San Diego State University is not a professional sports franchise. It's not a private business. It's an educational institution of higher learning. It has a greater mission to teach students, give them an education, and provide them with core values. And sometimes it achieves that, and sometimes it doesn't, but that's its mission statement. And while sometimes it might hurt your ego if you're a sport coach, we heard a professor on the panel yesterday, been at San Diego State for 26 years, and she didn't follow basketball at all. Basketball wasn't important to her. And basketball is not what San Diego State University is about. Women's basketball, men's basketball, football, any of those things. It's part of the educational opportunity that the university offers to its students. And it is certainly, in the minds of many, an important part of the mission. But again, winning isn't everything. And at the end of the day, yes, they like the headlines. Yes, they like the recognition that comes when their sports teams and their coaches perform well. And yes, it helps contributions and donations. And certainly to those who bleed red and black, it makes it a lot better day. But again, San Diego State University does not and cannot judge either its student athletes or its coaches or its staff simply based upon the one-loss record. And that's important in this case. No one will dispute, San Diego State University has never disputed, but that Coach Burns is a very good women's basketball coach. She is very good at her craft. She has obtained very good results over the years. That's not the issue. We're not here to tell you she's not a good basketball coach. And also at the same time, and while you're going to hear about various incidents involving Coach Burns over the years in her interactions at the university with staff, colleagues, and with her superiors, and you're going to hear about some conduct that the university simply does not think is appropriate for not only an employee of the university, not only an employee who is significantly involved with the students, but a very high-profile employee. We're talking about someone who was the face of women's basketball at San Diego State University. She had a high profile in the community. She was someone whose name attracted attention. She was highly compensated. And at the end of the day, the university does not believe that it was expecting too much to ask Coach Burns to treat colleagues, staff, and other people that she came into contact at the university with the simple respect and dignity that everyone is entitled to in the workplace. And what you're going to hear, at least as the way we view the case, and obviously Mr. Chapin and I have a very different view of this case, but you're going to hear that this was not about a fleeting image in a basketball game on February 13th of 2013. It's not about an incident that occurred in a hotel lobby in Memphis, Tennessee in 2010. What you're going to hear about was that Coach Burns, over a very long period of time, had a persistent problem with treating members of the staff, colleagues, with respect. It was not uncommon for Coach Burns to yell at and berate staff or other members of departments at San Diego State who were working, such as in the academic support services, who were working towards the best of the student athletes and trying to help her team, that she simply had an inability to control her temper and her emotions. Now, let me get another thing off the table. Intensity, that's not why she was terminated. We have 19 sports at San Diego State University. 19. I'm going to list them for you. There's actually only 6 men's sports, and there are 13 women's sports. And I don't know all of those coaches, but I've been involved in athletics in my life, and I venture to say that many of those coaches are very intense, have high standards, are very competitive, consider themselves winners, and that's all very good. And we're not talking about they're intense during games. Yes, coaches yell at players during games. Yes, coaches stand on the sidelines and chirp at the referees. It's a competitive atmosphere. And yes, things happen from time to time. But we're not talking about simply losing control at a random moment in one basketball game. We're talking about losing control on the sidelines after a practice has concluded. We're talking about losing control in the women's basketball office during the week. We're talking about berating and yelling at and raising the voice at various employees over a long period of time during which Coach Burns was counseling. And she needed to improve her interactions and her relationships with staff. And so what we think the case is about, and we think at the end of the day, after you talk about everybody had notes and everybody did an investigation, and we think this investigation should have included this person and that. But at the end of the day, what you're going to be asked to determine is whether or not the university had cause to terminate Coach Burns' contract on April 16th of 2013. Whether, as set forth in her contract, she was, I don't want to say guilty of, but she had committed conduct that was seriously prejudicial to the best interests of the university or its athletic department. And we go through the contract. That's the issue at the end of the day. Did that conduct merit a finding of cause and termination of her contract on that basis? Now, that's the first part of the case. I'm going to spend some time on the evidence as we see it as it relates to that. But let me talk about the second part of this case. This is something that was injected. You heard about a whistleblower retaliation complaint. counsel on behalf of Coach Burns is seeking damages on her behalf because they believe now she was retaliated against for blowing the whistle on improper governmental activity at San Diego State. First of all, you'll see nothing from Coach Burns or her Director of Operations, Tammy Stevens, during her actual tenure at San Diego State in which she filed, submitted, or wrote anything to her superiors in the athletic department, to the president of the university, by whom, with whom she had very good relationships. First Dr. Weber, and then Dr. Hirschman, and Dr. Hirschman will hear and testify. You're not going to see anything in which Coach Burns submits anything in writing saying she thinks there's some improper governmental activity in the classic whistleblower sense. Nothing at all. Mr. Sturk, she had Mr. Schemmel as an athletic director, and then she had an interim athletic director, Mr. Oberhelman will be here. Then she had Mr. Sturk. There's nothing in which she comes forth and makes any type of claim of violation of Title IX. The first time that ever surfaces was over 1 year after she was terminated on April 16, 2013. She had already filed a lawsuit in San Diego County Superior Court on February 19th of 2014. That is maybe 10 months post-termination. 3 months later, and on the last day possible, she, not her, but her lawyer, signs and files a complaint on her behalf, claiming for the first time that she has been retaliated against for blowing the whistle. So that was something that came up way after the fact and was filed by her lawyer, not by Coach Burns. And we will take Coach Burns and her staff through that complaint, and you'll have an opportunity to see what she was complaining about, and I'm going to talk about that. But the claim is essentially grounded on the notion that the university violated Title IX, gender equity requirements, equal opportunity for men and women. And I'm going to present to you what we believe are very compelling facts that shows that that is simply untrue. It is wrong-headed to even be asserted. And that San Diego State University has a documented, long-standing commitment to Title IX. That its Title IX reporting to the NCAA, to the Office of Civil Rights, and everyone over the years is more than in order. And that it is simply wrong-headed to be coming in and saying that the university has no commitment to Title IX, or that the university was violating Title IX, or that she had any good faith belief that Title IX had been violated. So that's a preview. Let me drop back. I want to talk about the first issue, whether there was cause to terminate Coach Burns. Counsel, Mr. Chapin, showed you an exhibit. It's called Draft Talking Points, Exhibit 41. And Michaela, could you switch us over onto the... This was a document that was prepared in preparation for the April 16 meeting, which was attended by Mr. Sturp, the athletic director, Mr. Wicker, the senior associate athletic director, and a woman by the name of Rochelle Thaler. I'll introduce all of them to you, but she was the head of, she was acting in the capacity as the human resources representative at that meeting. And in the draft talking points, which were used to discuss what was happening, what you're going to see is this notation. Coach has a long history of treating her staff and the athletic department staff poorly. She has a long history of losing her temper, yelling, cursing, and publicly calling out staff in a manner that is embarrassing. That's the issue. And it all came to a head in the spring of 2013. I'll come back to that because we can take that down now. And if you would you put up the timeline? This is simply a timeline of some of the events that we're going to be talking about in the chronology here, just to get you oriented in time. Coach Burns had been at San Diego State in 1989 to 1997. She left the university in 1997. She returned in April of 2005. Coach Burns is correct. The program under the prior two coaches, one had been named Marv Smith, who I believe left in about 2002. And the next coach was a gentleman by the name of Jim Tomey. He coached it until about 2005. And she is correct that the program did not have a lot of success. She came back to the university in 2005 under a 5-year term employment agreement. I'm not going to get into that now, it's just on the timeline. October 18th of 2005, she gets her first performance evaluation, which obviously didn't relate to very much. She had just gotten there in April. There, in fact, had been no basketball season. And all of a sudden, her supervisor here listed Jeff Schemmel, who's the athletic director. And one of the comments that's made right away is, Burns needs to continue to work on consensus building and positive engagement with all our working partners, particularly on campus. And again, is that a dramatic statement? No. But it suggests that there was an absence of Coach Burns working on a consensus basis and on a positive engagement. In March 3 of 2006, her next evaluation, her supervisor is Mr. Schemmel. And again, the statement is made, Beth must continue to work on her interpersonal skills, especially within the athletic department, and on her temperament in dealing with difficult issues. So it's apparent within her first year back on the Mesa that one of the issues that Coach Burns needs to work on is her temperament and her consensus building, and particularly her temperament in dealing with difficult issues. And you're going to hear from people who worked with Coach Burns during this time period what type of interaction Mr. Schemmel was talking about. In July 20th, 2006, again, now this is her supervisor, Jenny Bramer. Jenny Bramer is the senior women's administrator in the San Diego State Athletic Department. She's a former college athlete at the University of Oklahoma. I believe she ran track for 4 years, maybe played basketball 1 year there. She's was a very accomplished athlete, and she has had a very good career since, I believe, the late 90s, early 2000s, working within the athletic department of San Diego State, to the point where in 2005, 2006, she is the supervisor over women's basketball. She's the athletic department liaison with whom Coach Burns reports to. And then Ms. Bramer, in turn, reports to the athletic director. And Ms. Bramer, who is also the athletic department liaison for Title IX. She heads up Title IX compliance within the athletic department. She says, well, 3.5, that's not bad. She is intense and focused and sometimes forgets that building consensus can be tremendously beneficial in the long run. And again, this theme keeps coming back up. Rather than slamming her, they're sort of suggesting to Coach Burns another way. Let's do it in a positive way. Build relationships. Work on your temperament. This will help you. This will help the university. Began on June 21, 2007. The same comment is made. Can we go to the next page? Coach Burns got actually an extension on September 11th of 2007. The team was showing progress. None of the issues that I've talked about, obviously, are impeding her career. She gets an extension and she signs a new 5-year agreement in September of 2007. Here's her review on August 8th of 2008 with a similar type of comment. But then in February 5 of 2009, things start getting a little bit out of control. The university receives a letter from a former women's assistant basketball coach by the name of Heidi Vanderveer. Heidi Vanderveer was an assistant coach on Coach Burns' staff during the 08-09, excuse me, I may have my years wrong, but in the prior year. Ms. Vanderveer is a very accomplished basketball coach. She is the head women's basketball coach at UCSD now, and she is the sister of Tara Vanderveer, who is one of the iconic, the coach at Stanford women's basketball, who is one of the iconic coaches in women's basketball in this country. And this was a letter from Coach Vanderveer, and she felt strongly enough about it, she hired an attorney. And what had happened was, when she came to the university, she only stayed a year. She quit after a year for reasons I'll get into. And there was a policy that said if you leave before, say, 2 years, you have to pay back part of the moving expenses or something like that. So she left after a year. And they tried to ding her with these moving charges, and she was very upset. And both she, and you'll see a letter from her personally, you'll see a letter from her attorney talking about why she left. And what she characterized was the negative and oppressive work environment under Coach Burns. And she felt very strongly and put her strong feelings in a letter, and certainly her attorney did the same thing. 2008, 2009, Coach Burns is evaluated again. Her supervisor, let me say something. This isn't a case, you hear about gender inequity hear about cases in the news, and it's the old boys club, and it's sexual harassment, and it's men who don't get it. It's men who don't understand how to work with women in the work. That's not what this case is about. And what you're going to see is that many of the people with whom Coach Burns clashed over the years were women. And like-minded women in the sense that many of them were involved in basketball and athletics, and many led red and black and came to work every day trying to make San Diego State University the best university that it could. These are the people she's clashing with. And I'll go through this, Your Honor, and then we'll break.
Sure, it's up to you, whatever you want to do.
In 2009, Ms. Bramer, again, I guess there's an art to these evaluations as to how you tell people things, but she said, be aware of the people who are working hard on your behalf. That's what Ms. Bramer is saying to Coach Burns. Whether you know it or not, there are many people who spend countless hours for you and your student athletes. Criticism is okay, but a thank you somewhere along the way will keep them positively supporting our program. Utilize me to help you navigate our university systems and to use as a compliment when you are not pleased with the result. So there's a lot in there. And this was presented to Coach Burns at her evaluation, which would have included a face-to-face with Ms. Bramer. And I believe at that time it was still Jeff Schemmel was the athletic director. And Michaela, can you just move us up to the next page? And I'm going to break here because we're getting into an incident that Mr. Chapin described to you, and that was the incident at the hotel lobby in Memphis, Tennessee during the NCAA tournament. And again, this was yet another disturbing incident that was of concern to San Diego State University as it related to its high-profile basketball coach Burns, and how she was dealing with subordinates and how she was representing the university in a public situation. So, Your Honor, with that,
all right,
we can break right now.
Fine, thank you, Mr. Noonan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a couple of minutes before noon, time for lunch. Remember the admonition, don't discuss any aspect of the case with anybody. Have a nice lunch. We'll see you at 1:30, and we'll hear Mr. Noonan continue the defense opening statement. Have a good lunch. We'll see you at 1:30.